Hey, you guys. I thought today we would sit down and film and talk about have I ever thought about my life, what it would be like without having cerebral palsy? And the answer to that is yes. I have, of course, thought about that. Um, you know, I think my life would be a lot different, but the way I look at it is when you grow up living with a condition or whatever you want to call it, you kind of just, and it's your everyday, you learn how to live with it, and you learn how to work through different things and difficulties and whatnot. And I think that's the really cool thing about having cerebral palsy is it it makes you learn differently. It makes you think differently. It makes you appreciate things differently. I had lots of struggles when I was born, and I had lots of things I had to overcome and whatnot. But you know what? I am so grateful for my life. And, you guys, I died 5 times. And I had to be brought back to life 5 times. And I was thinking about this the other day. When you go through stuff so much at birth, um, as you get older, you learn to really appreciate the littlest things. And I was thinking about the bond I have with my mom, and my mom and I are so tight. Like, we are so tight, and I mean, we have such a great bond, and a bond that just means everything to me. And I wouldn't be where I am and who I am without her. And I'm so grateful that, in the beginning we pushed so hard for me to have a normal life, or as normal as possible. My mom and dad didn't just accept the fact that doctors were saying, oh, she's going to be a vegetable, she's going to need all this extra care and blah, blah, blah. They were like, you know what, we'll cross those bridges as we get there. Right now, we're just so grateful that she is here with us and whatnot. So, like, yeah, there's times I've thought, like, wow, my life would be totally different if I didn't have cerebral palsy. But having cerebral palsy is not a bad thing. Yes, I've had moments where in my life where I was lonely or I didn't have many friends, and I thought, wow, it'd be nice to just be normal. But I found ways to just get through those lonely times, and I think, my mom always says a saying that God doesn't give you more than you can handle, and that is so true. He knew that we could handle it, and I'm honestly so proud of the life that I live, and I'm proud that I live what I consider a pretty normal life, because like I said, they thought I was just going to be a vegetable. They thought I would be, laying on the floor. I wouldn't walk, I wouldn't talk, I wouldn't ride a bike. I wouldn't do those normal things. And you guys, I've done all those things. I was in therapy, and I walked, and I can talk, obviously, and and it's something so small, but to me it's a big deal that we won those battles, and now I get to sit here and make videos and talk about my life and talk about things I've experienced and gone through. And, I just think that having cerebral palsy doesn't define who I am. The way I look at it is yes, I have cerebral palsy, but there's so much I can do and that I'm capable of that when I was born, we didn't know if that was possible. And those things are possible. And, I worked hard in school and I worked hard at getting to a point where I didn't need surgeries anymore. I didn't need therapies anymore and stuff like that, but those things, those surgeries and that physical therapy and those things were a part of the journey, and those things got me to where I am today. And so, and like I've always said, you guys, cerebral palsy can look so different from one case to another. And in my case, like I said, I live a pretty normal life. I can help in the kitchen, I can help around the farm, I can help with so many things. Yes, I have limitations, but even with those limitations, I try to always find a way to do it even with my limitations, if that makes sense. I don't just say, oh no, I can't because I have cerebral palsy. No. Let me figure out a way to do it that works for me, and we'll go from there, and it will work, and I'll still get the job done, or I'll accomplish the same. It just looks different, and that applies to school, that applies to my daily life. I don't go a million miles every day, all day long. I do a little bit here, I take a break, do a little bit more, take a break, that kind of thing. Just so then it's not so hard on my body and whatnot. But so grateful for the approach that we took from when I was little to where I am today. And I mean, so I have a different outlook on having cerebral palsy, and like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's not something that I ask lots of people to deal with. A lot of it I just deal with on my own, and it's just an everyday occurrence, and every day I find ways to deal with it. And yeah, I don't ask people really to help. Well, I do and I don't. But I'm proud that I can sit here today and talk about it. I've had lots of cool experiences with having cerebral palsy. I got to ride a specialized bike in the hospital. I got to use some new technology when I was going through therapies and stuff. Like they would put balls all on my arms and my legs, and I would walk and they could see my movement and see how I was progressing with walking, and so that was a really cool experience. I worked hard at getting my diploma, and because I knew that deep down I could do it, and so I just worked really hard towards that as a goal, and I achieved that. And so yeah, it would be cool to not have cerebral palsy, but it's also doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for my life. And like I said, when you have a condition like cerebral palsy, it makes you appreciate the littlest things. And I'm so grateful that I had people who I'm so grateful that I have people who have supported me and who have been there for me through everything, every phase of life. And, I think every phase of life that I've gone through has gotten me to where I am. And I'm grateful that I can use my voice and educate people and, talk about different experiences and different things that when we were going through them were hard, but it makes you proud that you got through that. And when I started walking and talking, yes, it was later than a normal person, but I still got there. And I remember I remember being in high school, and I was in grade 11, and I was doing exams for end of semester, and my mom picks me up from my exam, and I said, yeah, I feel really good about it. And later that day I checked my marks, and I did really well. And I remember the following day I went in for another exam, and she picked me up, and I told her about I had gotten my mark back for that exam. And I remember my mom, she was so proud. She was like, you did it. You did it. You put the work in, and you got the reward of passing that course. And it was just a really cool experience, being able to prove that yes, I have cerebral palsy, but I can still accomplish things. I can still do things. And I am so grateful that I had, again, people that believed in me and that they knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. And it's really cool when you can prove to people that yes, I have this condition, but it's not defining me as a person. It's not stopping me from achieving things. And it was a long process. It was just a long process, but it was worth it. And I'm just more and more, I've proven that things are still able to happen, and I can still do things, and having cerebral palsy does not define who I am. Things may look differently. I may do things in a different way, but I always try to have a positive outlook. Now, I try, right? But I just think that every phase that I've gone through, I just always try to think of it as, it was a learning curve, or it was a learning experience. And I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for the people that I've met, the teachers that I've had. I've had certain teachers and certain teacher assistants that mean so much to me and that have impacted my life so greatly that they helped shape where I am today, and I'm forever grateful. I have bonds with people that just mean so much to me, and again, it's the littlest things that can just mean the absolute world. So yeah, it would be cool to not have cerebral palsy, but you know what? I have cerebral palsy, so that's just part of my life and that's part of my everyday. And I'm grateful, like I said, to be able to sit here and tell you guys about things I've gone through, um and it's really cool that I can be proud of, where the doctors thought I would be as a person to where I am today. And it came with a lot of hard work and a lot of determination and a lot of proving myself. But you set a goal, you want something, you set out for certain things that you want, and you find ways to make it happen. So that's what I've done, and I'm really proud of that. So, with all of that being said, having cerebral palsy for me is not a bad thing. I am proud of my life and what I've accomplished so far. But I thought it would just be fun to sit down and kind of chat about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this little chat video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.